So I'm sure you have seen things out here saying trust the process, saying part of a plan, etc. Correct? You probably even heard me say trust the process. In fact, I've gone on record saying every move is calculated. This was never a guessing game. So there's a certain point to where a flip will switch in your head. You can play back your life to a certain degree. Take a look around you and you'll realize that every single bit of your life pretty much was the plan. So we're going to go into that. I also want to talk about this is something that governs your life, whether you realize it or not. The main things that dictate your life, really think about this: psychology, religion or spirituality, mathematics, and science. Now, I'm not too big on math. I have a very well fundamental understanding of mathematics. I can do it in my head pretty simple and easy. When you get to the advanced stuff, no clue. I can Google it in 2 seconds. So, science, big fan of. Psychology, huge fan of. And religion or spirituality, giant fan of. So, even if you don't believe in religion or spirituality, it still dictates your life. I guarantee you a lot of your decisions were made in spite of or in favor of one or the other. So this is what I would suggest. I would highly suggest you get at the very least, a fundamental understanding of psychology, because it dictates your life whether you understand it or not. I've laid it out very clearly that your whole entire life has been ran on assumptions, judgments, repeating a scenario, pattern, cycle. So, would you not want to get to the root of that? Why you think the way you do, why you assume things, why you judge certain things, why you behave the way you do? Because that's all linked to psychology. So, and let's talk about this. You can tie this into. I understand I'm obsessed with this, but like if you take anything of that, listen, there has been few men that I can look back on the history of the world, and I can 100% say with certainty they were wise beyond their years. They were ahead of their time. They understood things that I don't understand how they understood them, but they did. And I'm not saying this. It is almost like Jesus was so ahead of his time that he literally had to speak in riddles to make it make sense to people, metaphors. And really think this through. I'm not one of these people that's going to sit here and say, be so arrogant to act like we were far more advanced than people were back then, because I haven't a clue. I do not. I think that's pretty arrogant to assume that, because part of me believes that they were far more advanced and they were speaking in metaphors, thinking it would be obvious to people, but we have somehow let our intellect take over and we're taking everything literal. Could be wrong on that, but something tells me that. And another part of me thinks this too. If you really listen and think about what people were doing back in those days, what they believed in, etc., that man was so far ahead of his time. He literally went around teaching people of psychology before psychology was. We knew nothing. Like, see, I don't want to say they knew nothing because I don't know. Dude, this is an imagination game at this point. It's a dinosaur question. I don't know. I was not here for it. So, how did that man know all that? How is he so far ahead of his time? How is he able to navigate the human mind to that degree and tell people he gave everyone the entire game? He gave them the whole game. Not only did he give them the game, he showed them some magic. Not only did he tell him the game and show him some magic, like that is far. I mean, that is impressive. That's hugely impressive. But what else is impressive is he was at least. I'm going to say this. I think he's ahead of this time too. I don't even think we have caught up to anything that he supposedly said or talked about on a fundamental understanding anyway, because he was trying to put something in the picture. He was trying to paint a picture. And it's almost like he didn't want to paint the whole picture because he would have been conceived of as crazy, a warlock, or a I don't know, whatever they believed in back then. So, I mean, he's not the only one. There's a handful of other people I could say here that was like they were ahead of their time, but he's the only one I can think of that's just like how. There's only three conclusions you can even attempt to come to when you're talking about this. One, he was a con artist, which I don't understand how you could say he was a con artist if you listen to what he said, because he literally told you psychology to the T. So I don't believe he was a con artist. Two, he was completely mentally deranged. Completely mentally deranged. And he needed a psychologist himself, which I don't buy because he was giving the game away for free. Three is he was exactly who he said he was. And I have to go with that option because, like, I try to look at things from two different sides here. I try to look at it from a grounded point of view and an elevated point of view. And I have no other option looking at this all the way around than to come to the conclusion he was exactly who he said he was. How else was he able to know that? How else was he able to know that stuff and tell people this stuff? So, it's fascinating to me, honestly. It's like, it just blows my mind, honestly. It blows my mind that so let's move into some other things here. So this is going to probably be a hard truth for some people to handle. Is there is one thing here that is and I'm not a fan of at all. I have not made any bones about it. I'm not a fan of the system. I'm not a fan of the government. I am not a fan of politics. I've also made it be known I'm not really a fan of religion. Even though I'm just not a fan of it because of it creates division. If we could all just come together and be like, but it is what it is. So politics, I'm not a fan of it. But more so than not, I'm not a fan of the system because it keeps you in a stressful situation. It perpetuates fear upon you. It tries to divide you every which way it can. It tries to turn you into a slave. It will pit and turn family members against each other. And it will try to beat you into submission to the point that you either go along with society and those norms, or you breach out on your own. And when you do breach out on your own, a lot of people think you're crazy. A lot of people think you're making a mistake. A lot of people think you are. All of a sudden, they don't like the way you're talking. They don't like the way you're acting. They don't like the way They don't like that you don't put up with things anymore. They don't like that you got boundaries built up. They don't like that you just won't go along with whatever. So, other than the system, where is all your woes, troubles, and worries coming from? I've laid this out very clear too. It's your thoughts. Now, there has been things probably throughout your life that sucked. I'm not going to dismiss that, but I would be very willing to bet that you have looked at that in a weird way, blew it way out of proportion, made it way worse than it was. And again, I'm not talking about some serious things. I'm talking about little teasing and something someone said to you one time because they were upset or mad, or something that someone said as a joke that you got offended by, or something like this. Now, you get that in your mind, you replay it, and then you start telling yourself stories about yourself, replaying these scenarios, and then that builds up resentment and anger, and it'll either deflate your ego or inflate it, overinflate it if you're trying to protect yourself. It can go both ways. It did with me anyway. And then you base your actions and choices and decisions based on all these things. And you wonder why people are stressed and depressed and anxious. Well, for one, they're bullying themselves in their own mind. Very true. They are bullying themselves in their own mind. Never happy, miserable. Complain about every little thing in the world. Go around somebody that complains all the time and is never happy. It's the most soul-sucking thing ever. Then you have people that are so anxious and depressed and miserable because of things they see on social media, the news, etc. And then they want to go argue with people about it because they think they know when they don't know anything. Unfortunately, I fell into some of these categories. I don't know. I've currently realized I don't know anything, really. I know some things, but I don't know them the way I don't know them. So, it is what it is. I'm trying to return to the state of childlike wonder. You cannot do that thinking you know everything. You can understand some things. And then when you understand things enough, you understand that I don't really know anything. Like, I don't know anything other than what I know, and what I know is very little. So, but people will argue that they understand and know things. They absolutely don't. But the point I'm really trying to make here is if people would accept and own their own decisions and their thoughts, the whole entire game would change. That's what I'm really trying to say. Why do you think the way you do? Why do you think you're less than? Or why do you think you're a loser? Or why do you think you're a bad person? Why do you think that nobody likes you? Why do you think nobody loves you? Why do you think... I don't know. People think crazy things. I used to do it too. Understand. I've never in my life been surrounded by so many people. This is very recently too, probably within the last 2 or 3 years. I've never been surrounded by so many people that were absolutely beautiful. They were absolutely intelligent and funny and kind. And like had everything to offer the world. And blessed, man. You're talking about, I've met some blessed people that just didn't understand they were blessed. And the reason they cannot accept this and the reason why they're miserable is because they tell themselves they're the opposite of what they are. They'll tell themselves they're ugly. They'll tell themselves they're fat. They'll tell themselves they're not good enough. They'll tell themselves no one likes them. They'll tell themselves that I can't be myself because nobody will like that. It's sad. They'll tell themselves they're not good enough because they don't have a certain car. Or they'll tell themselves they're not good enough because they haven't... There's a lot of things. And it's sad to me. And again, well, why is it sad? The ultimate sadness is realizing I did that. And maybe still do to a degree. Like, I'm just now fully grasping my own mind and what it's doing. So, I mean, But at the end of the day, it sucks certain things happened. Absolutely. I'm not saying it doesn't. But what I am telling you, my friends, is listen. If you can absolutely understand to live in the moment, you trust and you have faith, you learn to forgive yourself and love yourself, and then you look back on your life, you're going to realize it didn't suck that much and you made a freaking mountain out of a molehill. You understand? So I cannot speak for everyone. I can only speak for myself. I've been very taken care of. Life has been good. There has been times that sucked. But looking back at it, if I'd have just stayed in the moment, everything worked out. Always, man. Like, have faith. I'm going to leave you with this because I'm about to run out of storage, okay? And I'm going to come back and make another video probably today or tomorrow. I'm going to leave you with this, though. There's only been a few times in life when I was truly saddened. Like, saddened. Like, man, like where I felt bad. And the majority of these times were because I did not trust or believe or have faith in God and the plan. This is true. Beyond, I cannot express this to you enough how true this is. I have realized that the majority of my life was wasted worrying, stressed, anxious for no reason. Okay? So, have some faith, have some trust. Because what is going on today is not going to be going on tomorrow. What's going on tomorrow is not going to be going on next week. Listen, we can't keep pushing this off. So please, I'm not even saying please anymore. I'm just straight up telling you, get it completely together. This involves this right here. Love yourself. Get your thoughts in order. Be the example out here. Can't keep pushing it off. It's a game of form and the play of life.